In this video, we're going to take a look at a turquoise ink by Pilot in their Iroshizuku line jaku or Peacock. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the turquoise playlist, so if you want to see more of them, you can find them there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample, 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some shading, as the jaku is a little bit lighter than the word Pilot. The extra fine is a little lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, good shading, quick goes darker to lighter to darker, brown goes darker to lighter, fox goes darker to lighter, jumps goes lighter to darker, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub or as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, decent shading, the goes light to dark, quick goes dark to light to dark, brown goes dark to light. 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation because there is. The smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then, an Airmail Regal is inked up, used for day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does show some shading. Look at jaku, starts darker, gets lighter, gets darker. Iroshizuku goes dark to light to dark to light to dark. Very nice. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. Nice shading. Quick goes dark to light to dark. Brown goes dark to light. 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and it shades as quick goes dark to light to dark. The is very dark. Dog goes lighter to darker, 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show some good color variation because we get it, and the smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this very light blue, and it forms a line a little bit at the bottom. It pushes its way up as very light. We get a nice rich green, and at the very top, a nice dark blue. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked in the water. And we see that light blue really did form a much darker line at the bottom. Most of it stays there. It pushes its way pretty uniformly up. We get that very nice green, a little more spread out here, and that bright blue still at the top. So this is a very interesting mix with the potential of being a little bit resistant. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does show some shading as Iroshizuku goes dark to light to dark to light to dark again. Extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, still very nice shading as quick's dark to light to dark. Brown is dark to light. Lazy is dark to light, 6 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, very nice shading. Brown goes dark to light. Fox goes light to dark. Jumps is light to dark, 10 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation. We are getting that in the writing. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it does have a slight bit of spread and a little bit of feathering that's going on with it, but I still think it would be safe to use in a note-taking situation if you wanted to go back and highlight. Water is removing all of the green, but not the blue aspect of this ink. It makes it a very bright blue. Now, it only took water to get it out of my pen, which is great news. Pen Flush does everything that water does and nothing more, and the 1/3 bleach solution, interestingly, removed the blue but not the green. The next writing sample is done on Fabriano Eco Qua. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade. Quick goes light to dark, over goes light to dark, lazy goes dark to light. 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, tiny bits of shading where you more find your darker areas, like the X in Fox is a bit darker, the B in Brown, the K in Quick. But there's not a lot of shading throughout. It's just a little peppering here. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the medium shows a tiny bit of color variation. We really got a peppering. The extra fine shows it decent, and it is pretty decent. The smear test you probably could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Iroshizuku's Ku or Peacock has a viscosity of 1.73, making this a wet ink. If you're interested in all of that viscosity stuff, take a look down in the description, find that link to the video there, and that way you can see what's going on. The next writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading. Look at Jaku, going lighter to darker to lighter. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading in that it's peppering in quite a bit of the dark spots. The is very dark, the K in Quick is dark, B in Brown is dark, the PS in Jump's quite dark, but a majority of it is a nice mid-tone. 5 seconds to dry. Now, medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It is showing some lighter parts in the words, like the middle of dog is a bit lighter. Brown starts dark and gets light. Quick goes dark to light to dark. It's much nicer here, much more pronounced, even though the majority of the tone is darker. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show a tiny bit of color variation, and they both have it much better in the medium. Smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Iroshizuku's Ku or Peacock has an average dry time of 11 seconds, making this a faster drying ink. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now there is obviously a lot of heavy bleed into the paper, but this is not coming through the paper, not corrupting the paper underneath. There's the good news. The bad news, you cannot use the back of this page because you won't be able to read either side. Now the medium has a ton of tiny feathering, not something that would stop people from using it. It does spread almost to a broad, no halo sheen and no shade. The extra fine, same tone as the medium. Tiny feathering throughout, really manageable in its tiny featherness. It does spread to about a fine. It has no halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows color variation, but there is none. And the smear test, you could definitely recover it because you can't smear it. Instead of finding inks that look like Iroshizuku's Ku, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. To go with that really nice turquoise, I chose a brown from Montegrappa, their coffee brown. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to different color playlists. So what do I think of Pilot Iroshizuku's Ku or Peacock? The thing about Iroshizuku inks, they are color matched to their names perfectly, if you like their inks or not. The swatches come across as much more blue, but the writing looks beautiful. And I say it that way because I didn't want a blue out of this ink, and I did not get a blue. I really got an amazing turquoise. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I think you could almost use any pen that you really want. Now, if you want a darker with no shading turquoise, you could get that with a very wet, broad, or stub nib. But with anything that's medium flow or less, then I think you're going to be able to go ahead and get a great color and some very nice shading, just depending on what it is that you'd prefer. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Ackerman's number 30.